A former journalist is suspending her nomination campaign to represent the Conservative Party of Canada in the next federal election. Sabrina Maddeaux was running to be the Conservative candidate in the Toronto area riding of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, which is currently held by a Liberal MP. The same riding elected a Conservative MP in the 2019 election. Prior to that, the same MP won the riding when she was representing the Liberal Party of Canada in 2015. This is Leona Ellesleff. The Conservative nomination candidate is also making allegations about the integrity of the nomination race.
Despite raising concerns to the Conservative Party nearly 2 weeks ago, despite submitting clear evidence of a corrupted process and potential legal actions taken by another campaign, nothing has been done. All I ever asked and got assurances of was that this would indeed be an open and fair nomination contest. This, right now, isn't that.
The communications director for the Conservative Party said the allegations are completely false. Sabrina Maddeaux joins me now. Sabrina, thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me on.
So you've made an allegation of misconduct in the nomination race, saying there is clear evidence of a corrupted process, but you don't name specific names. So who exactly do you believe has corrupted this process?
Well, that's why I requested an investigation from the Conservative Party so that we could find out who's corrupted this process and action could be taken against them. It's clear that someone has gotten access to an updated list of party members, which no one was supposed to have at that point in time. Whether it's an external entity, that's concerning, or if it's someone within the establishment, that's also very concerning. Either way, it impacts the integrity of the vote, it corrupts the process, and it gives an unfair advantage to one candidate.
Okay, I want to dig into that, but just a couple of specific things. You're running against former MP Kostas Menegakis. Are you accusing him or his campaign in any of this?
I am running against him, but there are also 4 other candidates in the riding, so we're not accusing any one campaign. We're just asking for an investigation and steps to be taken to ensure this doesn't happen again.
Okay, and you've also voiced frustration with the party leadership. Do you think the party has any role in this, in giving someone access to early access to a list of all of the party members in your riding?
Well, the only way to get access to a membership list is through the Conservative Party's voter database, which is pretty tightly controlled. And again, that raises questions of if there was some sort of cybersecurity breach, that's obviously a major problem. But if there was interference from within the party itself, then we don't have an open and fair nomination contest on our hands, which is what I was told it would be, as well as other candidates, and also what's being sold to voters.
Okay, so as I understand it, Sabrina, right now you have a suspicion that something has happened here because there's an email that has been circulated that says unkind things about you, but is also a collection of things you've written in the past as a columnist for the National Post and other journalistic organizations. What proof do you have that this person, who it appears to be a fake name, had access to the email list that you say should be tightly held by the party until all of the candidates are officially nominated here?
Well, it went out to existing members, but the big thing is it also went out to new members. So people we sold memberships to as recently as late March got the email and shared it with us. We've since spoken to other campaigns whose new members also got the email. So there would be no way to target those email addresses or have those specific ones unless you had access to an updated membership list.
You often see in campaigns, though, Sabrina, in nominations, people pull together old lists from the last time there was a nomination. They add it on based on the names of who they know has been signed up or approached throughout this. I mean, how do you know that this is a fully exhausted, up-to-date list and not just something somebody cobbled together?
It was not an old list, again, because there were new memberships that were sold recently on that list. And again, no one would know who recently bought the membership actually except the party itself and the campaigns that sold them.
Okay, so we reached out to the Conservatives to ask them about this, about the concerns you'd raised and them ignoring it. And they said right off the top that the allegations you're making are completely false, and wrote that it's common for the party to receive complaints from nomination candidates about their competitors over suspicions of wrongdoing and the use of lists. In fact, we received a complaint about Ms. Maddeaux's campaign sending out an email to current and former members of the party when she should not have had access to a membership list. How do you respond to that rebuttal of your claims?
My campaign has never had access to an official membership list. I can say that for certain. We've known from the beginning that certain members of the EDA board were working with another campaign, so we were never given access to anything like that. What's especially concerning in this case, though, whenever my team sends out emails to anyone, it's under my name, there's accountability, people know who they're hearing from. This went to, on top of it being a membership list no one should have had, it came from an anonymous entity claiming to be someone who doesn't exist. And so that obviously raises a lot of questions and issues for voters about the security of the vote.
So in this email that went around, as I said, it is not kind to you, but it is also a collection of your past writings, some of which is critical of the gun industry, some of which is a bit explicit. That is a style that you wrote in, and I don't say that judgmentally, but you talk about things you did to participate in Pride Week, for example, in Toronto. I mean, is this necessarily corruption of the process, or is this someone who just doesn't think, based on the things you've written, that you're the right fit for the Conservative Party of Canada in 2024?
If someone does feel that way, then I would have invited them to campaign under their name. I don't see why they would have created an anonymous account and pretended to be a member of the Conservative Party in order to gain trust of those that they sent it to. A lot of what was in the email was purposefully mischaracterized and inflammatory. And on top of that, because we don't have access to the new memberships that other campaigns sold, there was no way for my campaign to defend myself or even call out our concerns with the email and how it came to be to begin with.
There are Conservative sources that are putting it out there that the concerns you're raising aren't really the issue here, that they are arguing that this is happening because you were going to lose this nomination and that you'd only sold 50 memberships or less in the months that you've been campaigning here. How do you respond to that?
That is not the case. We certainly sold well more than 50 memberships and identified well over 1,100 supporters within the riding, many of whom were existing members. I'll say this, if I were thinking I was going to lose, it'd be a lot easier to lose quietly than publicly go through this. This is certainly not the least painful route. We were actually very confident in our campaign and our chances of winning up until this began to happen. We were feeling very, very good about the support we had identified and the memberships we'd sold.
How many did you sell? Have you got a sense, at least a ballpark, of how many new members or repeat members you were able to sign up to support your campaign?
Well over 200. And again, on top of that, we identified over 1,100 supporters in the riding, many of whom were existing members as well.
Okay, do you think that is enough to win in that particular riding? I mean, how big of a turnout were you anticipating there?
Yeah, so I know that sounds like a small number.
It's a nomination, though. They're smaller than general elections, yeah.
Much smaller, and that's actually something a lot of people don't realize and why it's concerning, because nomination races can be easily influenced because of the small numbers of voters. I know in ridings surrounding mine in recent contests, the approximate number of voters was only around 600 people. So that's the sort of number we're looking at.
So Sabrina, if this was someone getting early access to a list that is contained in the party's membership database, there should be an electronic fingerprint of that would be reasonably easy to find, I would assume, for a party as competent and as well-resourced as the Conservatives. Do you know if they've done that? I mean, what is your sense of how seriously they've taken the concerns that you've raised and what actions they've taken to try to address them?
We also felt that it should be easy to look for that sort of digital fingerprint, especially, like you said, it's a very tightly controlled system. We were never told that they did. We were told an investigation had started, but despite asking multiple times, we never received next steps. We never received any sort of timeline. And so the answer to that is I simply don't know.
Do you think it's because there was a preference for another candidate, or they just don't think your concerns had merit?
It's possible there was a preference, but I don't want to speculate on that. Again, I just hope there's an investigation and that voters can learn what was really happening in this contest.
Okay, so what do you do now? I mean, you're frustrated, you're dropping out. You left your position with the National Post to try this new life. I mean, what do you do now? And do you still support the Conservatives after everything you've gone through with this issue?
What do I do now? That's a very good question. Obviously, this is not the way I saw this ending at all. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking that my campaign was out there for over 110 days since the middle of January, door knocking every day. You know, I made career sacrifices, financial sacrifices, personal sacrifices. So I might take a little time to myself, to be quite honest, to decide what to do next. But I know that my commitment to participating in the democratic process. The issues that I'm concerned about, in particular affordability and generational fairness, are still top of mind for me, and I would like to still be an influencer in how we can improve on those as a country. In terms of the Conservative Party, I joined this race because I was inspired by Pierre Poilievre's leadership, and I still believe in the vision of change he has for the country. That said, there do appear to be some problems in terms of transparency and accountability in the nominations process and ensuring the integrity of that, and I really do think we need to see those fixed.
Sabrina Maddeaux, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you again.